Hi everyone, it's Kirsten and welcome back to my booktube channel. Now, I forgot to include 2 shelves in my last video, so I'm going to insert a clip here. In the middle of my cube bookshelf, we have Death Note, the black edition, which is just really stunning on a bookshelf. I just like the way how I organize this. I kind of got inspiration from some booktubers that I watch, such as, I mention her a lot, but Books with Chloe. She kind of decorated them like this, and I thought it just looked really cool. And then I had a yoga skeleton that had a succulent in it, but I killed it because I kill every plant, like I said, and it just goes with the spines. But this is a really, really good manga series, and I suggest everyone to read it. And then we have Spells and Illusions, which are the following up books of Wings, which I read in like 7th grade. Really good series, but have not read them since 7th grade. The Poppy War, which I still need to read. I've not read City of Bones. Crazy, right? But I kind of got the first book to all of these, which is not good because I know I probably need to start with this, but please let me know which one to start with, because I hear people to start with the Clockwork Angel, and I don't know if I need to read this one first, but yeah, just let me know. And then the Hunger Games, which I've read all of, and I also thrifted all of these, $1 each. Okay, so this was a highly requested video, and it's basically my book recommendations. Now, I've got a book recommendation for pretty much every genre because I read every single genre, and I'm going to try to be as descriptive in a way as I can, but without spoiling the book. But I also hope I remember a lot of aspects of the book. So the first genre that I'm going to talk about is historical fiction, which is weird because in my first video I said that I wasn't really a huge fan of historical fiction. I kind of have to be in the mood for it, but hence some of my favorite books are in the historical fiction section or genre. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this author's kind of a hit or miss with me. This is the only book of hers that I really, really connected with and liked. 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I wasn't really a fan. And then Malibu Rising wasn't really it for me. I don't know if it was, you know, right book, wrong time kind of deal, but this one worked perfectly. It's told in interview form, which is, I didn't think I would like that format, but it's really, really, really fun and fast to read through. You can really like view the story through like this whole interview kind of setting. So basically this is about Daisy, and she is trying to navigate her life in LA in the late 60s, and she's trying to get noticed. She wants to be a singer. And then she crossed paths with the band called The Six with the lead singer Billy Doon, and a producer mentions that her and Billy's voices would be great together, and it's just a whole bunch of, you know, kind of navigating that. Billy has a girlfriend, and that's kind of like one of the main aspects, and then you learn about all the other band members, which I really, really, really like. And then also on Audible, if you choose Audible to listen to this, I highly recommend it because they have character voices for each of the characters as they're going through the interviews. And also I'd like to mention the interviewer plays a very special part in this. So yes, if you are a newer reader and you want a fast read that keeps you, you know, kind of questioning the whole time and on your feet, this is where you go. And as you can see, I annotated a lot. But yes, fast read, I would suggest this for beginner readers. Now the second book that I'm going to talk about is one of my all-time favorite books. This was suggested for me to read by a ton of people. Anyone that I recommend this to has liked it. Literally every age that I've recommended it to. So, and that is Where the Crawdads Sing. And this edition is gorgeous, like I showed off. But this, Delilah, I think that's how you say it, or is it Delia? I never really focused on that. We're gonna say, we don't know, but Owens is the last name. This is crazy because this is like historical fiction slash mystery slash thriller in a way, and you're always questioning, but it basically talks about Kaya and her life in the marsh in North Carolina. And basically she kind of grows up with a family that is very dysfunctional. They're very there's some abuse going on, so trigger warnings for abuse in this book. My dog is nesting right now, so excuse her. Are you done? You gonna lay down? Okay, thank you. So basically it's about Kaya and her life, you know, kind of living that as a child. She's nesting again still. Da, da, da. But this, so yeah, Kaya's living kind of through that, and then she kind of becomes abandoned. I'm not gonna spoil how that happens, but she has to figure out how to live life on her own, and it time jumps. I believe it's like between 1950s? Yeah, 1950s to 1969. So 1950s is like her growing up in the marshlands, kind of navigating life, and then we switch to 1969 and there is a scene going on, basically about a murder in the future, and you read about detectives and kind of interrogations, and yeah, it gets wild. It's one of my all-time favorite books, so I highly suggest everyone to read this. Everyone will like it. No one will dislike this book, I promise. And if you do, I would like to discuss it. Okay, so this one I would kind of say is fantasy, but it's like historical in a way because it goes back in time jumps, but I would probably say it's fantasy too. I don't know. But this is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and this kind of beats this one. I don't know, but I like this. I like this a lot. It taught me a lot. This gave me a really, really good story. This gave me life lessons. And V. Schwab, I did not really know about her until this book, and I want to read more from her because I think she is an amazing writer. The writing in here is so lyrically written. It's beautiful. This is about Addie LaRue, and she's living her life. She is so 1698 is when the earliest time period starts, and she is not happy with her life, and she's, you know, getting forced to get married to someone, you know, she can't live her life independently, and she feels like her independence is getting taken away, and basically she wants a free life. And so she makes a deal with a god, or they say he's not a good god, he's something else, and they tell her to be careful because that type of god is not one you know you should be making wishes to. And she makes a wish, and she ends up, you know, kind of living her life independent, but for about 300 years in this. Plus, you look at her life for 300 years through time, and she is basically navigating life with the curse of everyone's going to forget her. after they meet her, after they spend time with her, they're gonna forget her. Like, no one's gonna remember her, and so that's kind of what she has to deal with. And you kind of uncover the lessons in this book of what it truly means and what, you know, what life really means. And I highly enjoyed this. I learned a lot of lessons about myself, and so yes, highly suggest you read this. It is kind of slow, and I almost DNF'd this, which, if you don't know what DNF means, it means did not finish, because I was kind of bored at some parts because it's just slow. But I have to tell you, keep going, because it has become my favorite book of all time. Now, the next genre that we're going to talk about is romance. Now, I suggest romance for new readers because they're romance contemporary. Let me just say, romance contemporary is very easy to get into, and it's very fun, and it's light, and depending on what type of romance contemporary, like, rom-coms are really easy and uplifting and fun to get through. I would suggest for new readers to pick up Colleen Hoover, because Colleen Hoover has a way of really gripping your attention. I would say she's not the greatest writer out there, and her stories can be kind of cheesy at sometimes, but she has really deep meanings in a lot of her stories, deep concepts, but they're very easy to read because the text is just very simple, I feel. But they kind of all hold a dramatic sense to it, or like a tragedy. Like, this one almost made me cry, to be completely honest with you. This is about a girl who is named Tate, and she meets a guy named Miles, and she ends up finding out that Miles is best friends with her brother, and they kind of keep like this relationship, this, you know, friends with benefits relationship, but they end up kind of falling for each other. But Miles won't go any further. There's something going on. Like, he won't admit his feelings because there's something going on. There's something deeper going on, and he can't tell anyone, and he can't tell the reader. But you're kind of getting glimpses of what happened to him that's made him so reserved, so scared to commit, and it's very sad. But I would suggest reading this because this was a very, very fast read. It's very interesting. It's very, very heartwarming at the end. And yeah, I'm a Colleen Hoover fan, except for some of her books are not that great, but this book did it. So the next one is one that I kind of don't remember because I read it a long time ago, but I know I loved it, and it's The Girl He Used to Know by Tracy Garvis Graves. And this is a signed copy right there. So this is about Annika Rose, and she is an English major at the University of Illinois, and she is very anxious in social situations where she finds most people's behaviors confusing. She'd rather be in the library surrounded by books or playing a quiet game of chess, just like me. But then we are introduced to Jonathan Hoffman. He joins the chess club, and they get together, they fall in love, then something happens and they are not together anymore. So then they see each other 10 years later, and they question why they even broke up in the first place. And basically it's kind of a second chance love story, and I loved this. I finished it in a day. I literally sat down on the couch and just read the whole thing. So suggest this for new readers. You will love a fast book. Now we get on to our last romance recommendation for right now. This is Normal People by Sally Rooney. It's very realistic, it's raw, it's very emotional, it's very true to humans. And I would like to say, again, Sally Rooney gets it, because it's just, this is real. And it is about Connell and Marianne. They grew up in a small town together, but the similarities end there. At school, Connell is popular and well-liked, while Marianne is a loner. But when the two strike up a conversation, awkward but electrifying, something life-changing begins. So basically, this is about the two of them and kind of how they both navigate life and their feelings for each other. And it time jumps, and it kind of goes through both of their lives. And I'm pretty sure this is based in Ireland, Dublin, I'm pretty sure. But yes, give this a try. Some people will like this, some people won't. Some people won't exactly get it, but I got it. So the people who got it, yay. But the people who don't, I would also, you know, like to discuss, because I like to hear other people's opposing views. So now we're gonna talk about fantasy, which I'm gonna say I haven't really been into the this last year. I've been really into romance and thrillers and contemporaries, but these are the two that really sparked me back into reading. So the first one is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I don't know if I thought that I needed to tab every single page, but I did. Maybe it was just that good, but I'd have to say that reading this book and then going to her other series, I would say that this one's not the greatest, but it did spark me, and ignite my fuel back into reading. She is summoned to the castle. She comes not to kill the vicious king who rules from his throne of glass, but to win her freedom. If she defeats 23 killers, thieves, and warriors in a competition, she will be released from prison to serve as the king's champion. Her name is Selena Sardothian. The crown prince will provoke her, the captain of the guard will protect her, and a princess from a faraway land will befriend her. But something evil dwells in the castle, and it's there to kill. When her competitors start dying one by one, Selena fights for freedom, becomes a fight for survival and a desperate quest to root out the evil before it destroys her world. And yeah, so I basically just read you the synopsis of it, but as you can see, there's a lot in the series. I have the whole series back here. It's a lot. It's time worthy. I mean, it is time worthy, but it's also a lot of time spent getting into the series. But if you are looking for a new series to get into, I suggest this. I would say the first book is not my favorite, but the other ones get really, really good. The second series I would like to talk about, which is one of my all-time favorite series. You know, when I talked about Twilight and how it was my first book that really got me into reading, it truly took me to that world, and it, like, I was obviously blinded by Jacob and Edward because they were my book crushes. But we're going to talk about A Court of Thorns and Roses. Now, this by Sarah J. Maas. I've obviously been digging into Sarah J. Maas this year, but this basically is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I would say that this book is kind of a tease because the later books are something else in a positive way, a very positive way. But this basically is about Farah. She's 19 years old. She's a huntress. She's trying to provide for her family. They're in poverty, and she has to take care of her dad and her 2 sisters. And she kills a wolf while trying to hunt in the woods. And then a terrible creature arrives to their family and demands retribution. Dragged by treacherous magical land she knows only about from legends, Farah discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal, immortal fairies who once ruled her world, and he is not a beast all the time. So basically he drags her to his town and kind of makes a deal with her, pretty much the same as Beating the Beast. But I would say this book is pretty good. It literally took me to a whole different world. I love the atmosphere in here. And then I'm gonna show more because I love this book. This is where it gets good. Don't stop here. If you don't like this, don't stop. Read this, please. This is where it got really good. And you meet more of the characters, you meet more of the fairies, you will just see. It's basically like a Edward and Jacob type thing in a weird way, but read please. Now we're gonna talk about thrillers. So one that I just read literally a month ago is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. And this is a YA novel. I'm not really good at telling you what's YA and what's not. This is YA. Everything else that I've talked about is not YA. It's about a girl who is doing a senior project, but she decides to do her senior project on a murder case that is unsolved. And she is doing it on a senior whose name is Andy Bell, and she was murdered by her boyfriend, whose name is Saul Singh? I don't know how to say it, but who later killed himself, which makes him look like a prime suspect. Sorry, I cannot talk. Pip decides to take this on because she thinks that there's another murderer. She doesn't think that Saul did it, and so she kind of navigates through this. And this book is so fun to read because it has the interviews in it. They have what she writes down on her capstone projects. She kind of has stuff like that. And it is a really fun and fast read. This is a series. The second one, there's 3 in there. I have not read the second one or the third one yet, obviously. And so the second one is this, A Good Girl, Bad Blood. And I need to read this ASAP. I plan to read this either this month or next month. But yes, and I still need to get the third one, and then my series is complete. And then the next one is No Exit by Taylor Adams. No one talks about this book, and it is so good. This, I would say it's more of a winter read, but it's about a girl coming home from college on her way to Utah to see her mother, who is dying. She gets caught in this fierce blizzard, and she has to go to this lodge or coffee shop, and she meets a whole bunch of strangers in there. And when she goes out to find a signal to call home, she makes a horrifying discovery, and she sees a hand in a car going up like that, like this, and she's like, what the heck? And so basically she thinks that someone in the coffee shop, or I'm pretty sure it's a coffee shop, I could be wrong, has abducted a child, potentially, and she has to figure out how to get this child out. So this is interesting. This was a fun read. It's really fast, good book. People should talk about it more because I loved it. And then we have Final Girls by Riley Sagar. I'm gonna read the synopsis because I forgot a lot about it. I know bits and pieces, but I read this a while ago. So 10 years ago, college student Quincy Carpenter went on vacation with 5 friends and came back alone. In an instant, she became a member of a club no one wants to belong to, a group of similar massacre survivors known in the press as the Final Girls. Lisa, who lost 9 sorority sisters to a college dropout's knife. Sam, who went up against the sack man during her shift at Nightlight Inn. And now Quincy, who ran bleeding through the woods to escape him. Despite the media's attempts, the girls never meet. Now Quincy is doing well, maybe even great, thanks to her Xanax prescription. She has a caring almost fiance, Jeff, and a therapeutic presence in Coop, the police officer who saved her in all those years ago. Her memory won't even allow her to recall the events of that night. The past is in the past. That is until Lisa is found dead in her bathtub, wrist slit, and Sam appears on Quincy's doorstep, intent on making Quincy relive the past. And when her new details about Lisa's death comes to light, Quincy's life becomes a race against time as she tries to unravel Sam's truths from her lies and remember what really happened at Pine Cottage before what happened. I cannot read. Before what was started 10 years ago is finished. I gotta say, I really liked this book. I think it was a really fast read. I would recommend it. I knew that I called the plot twist. I knew the plot twist pretty fast. It was not that hard to guess, but it was still a really, really good read, and it was kind of a fun slasher type thing. And then we go to the Southern Book Club's Guides to Slaying a Vampire by Grady Hendrix, which of course tabbed all the way up, highlighted everything. His writing is just so funny in a way, but it's also gross, like I mentioned. Like, this is more gross than anything, but it's funny, and that's why I like it. And it's like, I like it because it's his craft. I respect authors for their craft, unless they're being super duper offensive, but I like to try it for their, their art. Let me just read you the synopsis, and then you'll kind of understand. Patricia Campbell's life has never felt smaller. Her husband is a workaholic. Her teenage kids have their own lives. Her senile mother-in-law needs constant care, and she's always a step behind on her endless to-do list. The only thing keeping her sane is her book club, a close-knit group of Charleston women united by their love of true crime. Then James Harris walks into her life during the summer of 1993. He makes her feel things she hasn't felt in 10 years. But when children on the other side of the town go missing, Patricia wonders if he's connected. Is he a Brad Pitt, or a Bundy, or something much worse? And that basically sums up this book. So yes, definitely recommend. I love this. I had friends who loved this, so give it a try. If you like weird and you like, weird. If you like weird things, try this book out. It is called Bunny by Mona Awad. Mona Awad is a genius. The way she writes is insane, and I gotta tell you, to be honest, I don't even know how to explain this book because it's so undescribable. It's so good. I still don't understand this book necessarily. There's theories, and I think I know a lot of the theories, and it's funny. It's really funny. So I'm just gonna not even try to describe it. I'm just gonna read you the synopsis because I feel like I don't do justice by just trying to explain it for myself, and I don't want to offend any of the bunnies out there, so we're just gonna do this. So here we go. Samantha Heather Mackey couldn't be more of an outsider in her small, highly selective MAF program at an elite New England university. a scholarship student who prefers the company of her dark imagination to that of most people. She's utterly repelled by the rest of her fiction writing cohort, a clique of unbearably twee rich girls who call each other Bunny and seem to move and speak as one. But everything changes when Samantha receives an invitation to the Bunny's fabled smut salon and finds herself inexplicably just ignore that, drawn to their front door, ditching her only friend Ava in the process, as Samantha plunges deeper and deeper into the Bunny's sinister yet saccharine world. Don't know that word either. Beginning to take part in the ritualistic off-campus workshop where they conjure their monstrous creations, the edges of reality start to blur. Soon her friendships with Ava and the Bunnies will be brought into a deadly collision. The spellbinding new novel from one of our most fearless chroniclers of the female experience, Bunny is a down the rabbit hole tale of loneliness and belonging, friendship and desire, and the fantastic and terrible power of imagination. So yeah, that was a tongue twister, but please read this if you like weird, if you like coming up with your own theories, if you want to finish this and stare at a wall for hours contemplating what just happened, what did you do with your life for the last, hours, because this is where it's at. It's really good. Some people just won't vibe with it, some people will. I thought I wasn't vibing with it, and then I did, so yeah, give it a try. Then we're gonna talk about manga, because I know a lot of people are, curious about other types of books out there, and this one is really good. I think this includes volumes. I don't know, there's more than one volume in this for sure though. This is called Orange. I cannot say that name for the life of me. If you can read that. This is about a girl named Naho. I think that's how you say it. Naho, yeah. Basically, she is starting her junior year of high school and she gets a letter from her future self, and she kind of blows it off like it's nothing. It's just like a prank, it's a joke, but it's basically telling her to keep an eye on one of her closest friends. I can't remember which one it is, but that something tragic is going to happen to him and she needs to keep an eye out and make sure he has a really, really good life before something traumatic or something like that happens. It's a very, very heart-wrenching book, and I would say that it is maybe not for the light of heart, but it didn't really affect me too much. It was more like I loved it and it was really cute, like the life lessons and stuff in this. And the series, it doesn't end in this book, so there's a second one they need and then a third one, I'm pretty sure, but this is the first one and it's really good. Then we move on to my favorite author of manga and artist is Junjito. These are two of his books. I think it's Gaio and then Venus in the Blind Spot. This is a collection of short stories. There's one about an alien girl, and he just comes up with the weirdest concepts, but like his art is super, and it's not all in color, it changes, but his concepts, his story ideas are so random and out of the blue, but they're super good and addicting. And he's like a thriller horror manga artist, as you can see, but he is so creative and I love it. This is his other one, and there's 3 of these. One of them is Tomi, and then I can't remember the other one to save my life. I have the other 2 on my Kindle, but this is obviously about sea creatures that have robotic legs. Like what? That basically take over the town. And somehow this is entertaining. So that means that he's a really good author and artist. And then we go on to Tokyo Ghoul, which is about a boy who gets attacked by a ghoul, and he ends up becoming half of a ghoul, and he kind of has to navigate his life. There's 13 of these. I would say that it's quite a bit, and it's kind of an investment to purchase all 13 books, but a really, really great series. Now we're going to talk about kind of my self-help books. I'm not going to go too much into detail because I want to do a separate one for it, but one of them is I don't have it physically. I let someone borrow it, so I'm going to insert hopefully a clip or a picture if I can figure out how to do that. If not, I will link it down below. But the book that I'm going to talk about is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. It basically is a book about ways to stay in the present and not think about the future or the past, focusing on the now and how that can really change your life, how it can change your mental state, your physical well-being. It can make you see the world more clearly, and it can raise your mental health. And I have to say, this book is very, very deep, and each sentence I kind of felt myself going back and rereading because it's very, very powerful. And the author makes sure that you are doing stuff throughout the chapters. Like, you know, he'll say, take this moment to do this. He'll give you examples of daily things to do. And I like to say that I started this book when I was kind of not in the right mindset. It didn't speak to me, so I put it down. And then years later, when I really, really needed it, it came to me. I was like, oh, I'm gonna read it. And yeah, I read it. I'm not gonna go too much more because I want to do a whole video on it. But then he's got another book called The New Earth, and I haven't read it all, but I've read most of it, and it's really, really, really good. And I'll talk about it more later, but if you want to check it out, check it out. He's great. Power of Now literally will change your life. This one is called Creating Great Choices by Jennifer Reel and Roger L. Martin. This is a leader's guide to integrative thinking, and this was a book that I had to buy for my college courses, and as you can see, I tapped it up, not only for my college courses, but for me. It talks about how humans are very lazy when it comes to choices. We get choices like choice A and choice B. Usually it's only two. And we usually pick the easiest choice because we don't want to sit there and think about it. But then you think about it, and are there only really two choices, or can there be a third one? Can there be a fourth one? Can there be more if you really, really try and put effort into it? If we stop being lazy, we can find better choices to make everything a lot better. So this book basically talks about how you can take any problem and you can make a third potential solution to anything, and it gives you guides and examples of how to basically come up with a third solution that can be the best of best. There's a thing called a double down. There's decomposition. I can't say that. I can't talk tonight. I would highly suggest checking it out. It can help you in your careers. It can help you in your daily life. Any problem that you're having, you can find a third solution. And this book proves it. That is my book recommendations. I hope some of them vibe with you. If they don't, I'm sorry, but I would like to have a discussion on maybe your favorite books. But Yeah, this one I feel like I'm more relaxed on because I got to show off what I really like doing. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.